Awesome motherfuckers, Wesley So have been eliminated of the World Cup and he haven't options to reach the candidate. So this year, no, okay, the next year, Wesley So is not going to be world champion of chess. That's okay. I'm going to show us the game who is the victory of Titas Stremavicius, eliminating Wesley So of the World Cup. Okay, in the first round they draw, so in the second round was the decisive because there are only two rounds. So Titas Stremavicius was with the white pieces and he opened with d4, d5. If they draw the both games or if they tie 1-1, they are going to play rapid games in the tiebreaks the following day. d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop e7, and now white decides to capture on d5, going for a cashback structure. C takes bishop f4. Because okay, the bishop is on e7, so here have no so much sense to play bishop d5. Here, with the bishop on e7, it's more logical to place the bishop in the open diagonal. So c6, just defending d5 and defending knight b5. Sorry, typical move c6. C6, now h3, just stopping bishop g4 in some lines. So now black have two ways to play. One was bishop f5. Okay, here white can play like for example e3 and then g4, bishop d6 and knight h4, trying to take the bishop. Or queen b6 played by Wesley So, who is a good move. Queen c2, and now uh, the problem is that black to now develop the like the square bishop, he should play first g6 to play bishop f5 at the next move. G6 can look a little bit strange with the bishop on e7. G6 used to be fine with the bishop on G7, but okay, here you should make this move to can develop the bishop. Here we see the idea of under H3, yes, because it's not easy for black to develop the bishop. E6, E3, bishop F5, and just go back to C1 with the queen. You could think that the queen could be better on d4, but here have no so much sense. For example, bishop b4 here could be annoying because knight d4 or knight d4 directly. I think this is stronger because you cannot take here because now the knight is under attack, and if you move the knight, now bishop b4 taking your queen. So queen e4 is always queen e2 is of course bad. So queen c1 good move. So castle d4 attacking the bishop and trying to take the bishop pair. And now Wesley so should just give the bishop pair. That's the problem of having the pawn on g6 and the bishop on f5. As you here with black, you should give the bishop pair, bishop e2, knight b7, sword castle. And here, if you don't take the knight here, white is going to take your bishop, so you should take on f3, bishop f3. And okay, here I want to stop here a moment because now after the opening, yes, the opening is over, and we saw that black, we see that white have the bishop pair. But okay, the machine say that the advantage is not so huge because black have developed more or less his minor pieces, and yes, the black position is more or less solid. And apart, white have his open, his king a little bit open, so that's why the position is not so bad for black. Okay, white have the advantage of course because the bishop pair, but there is no so much problem for black. Okay, queen d8, very good regrouping move of Wesley. So now the queen is misplaced on b6, it's not making nothing. So the queen should just return to d8. d6 have no sense. Queen c2. And now came the first mistake of Wesley. So until here, both players are playing so well. But here comes the first mistake of So, who is 98. The problem of 98 is that you are going so much less, so much there's so much in the first rank. You have all your pieces in the first rank and in the second, and you are giving so much space to your opponent. And okay, of course, black idea is just or play bishop d6 and try the dark square bishop and place a knight on d6. Of course, in the cardback structure, the d6 is the best square for the knight. The problem is that here black have no time to make that because if you have two moves and you can move twice in a row, okay, you can play 98, 96 or 98 bishop d6. But now it's white turn. And very good advice that I'm going to give us when your opponent goes with his pieces to the third rank and no forward, go behind with his pieces, go back with his pieces, sorry. Just think always about break the center because he is no good prepare with his pieces in the third rank. Of course, Wesley so here wants to play in a long term, made a a maneuver. So we should punish that breaking in the center. That's the typical thinking that we should make. Knight b6 here was the correct move. If, for example, if a4, here a5, stopping the pawn, and now black have this square for this bishop, and white having the b5 square. So looks like a4 a5 benefits black a little, but okay, it's not so much. Queen b3, bishop b4, and bishop d2, and white have a small advantage thanks to the bishop pair. For that reason, I like the white's opening. I really like the idea of h3 to then take the bishop pair. Or, or if bishop here, black can play like this. But okay, let's still analyze in the game. 88 bad move, and now very good response of Stremavicius. When your opponent goes back with the pieces, you should break in the center because you have more space and you have the pieces forward than your opponent's pieces. So before, very good move, d takes, and here was stronger to recapture with the knight. The problem of recapture with the bishop is that after knight df6, now black is threatening to recover the bishop pair and is threatening to take on d4, so you cannot defend both. So black is close to be equal here. For that reason, was stronger to just take with the knight. And now, if black comes to trade knights, okay, if knight df6, you can go to c5. And if black develops the other knight, you just can go to c3 and then place the rook in the center, and you are better thanks to this bishop pair. Um, okay, maybe he doesn't take with the knight because he's scared about some blockades in the d5 square with the knights. And for that reason, he plays bishop b4 to have more control over the d5 square. Okay, it's understandable, but Wesley so had there's a easy, more or less easy way to equal the game or be close to equal the game. Okay, knight df6, like I told, the black is threatening the bishop and is threatening the d4 pawn. You should choose if you give your opponent the d4 pawn and give this pawn, or if you are going to give the bishop pair. Here, both moves are interesting. He played rook a1, just defending the pawn and giving the bishop pair. But bishop d2 to maintain the bishop pair and sacrifice the pawn was interesting too. Knight d4, bishop e3, queen c4, and rook e1, and white have huge counterplay for the bishop pair. But okay, Stremavicius decide to keep the pawn and give the e4 bishop, and here I don't understand why Wesley so doesn't take on e4 the knight here, the bishop. This Wesley so here play knight c7 with the clear intentions of made a blockade on d5, but sorry, that looks like black here just should take the for bishop and yes, just take the bishop pair, and especially you are taking the bishop that your opponent doesn't have, sorry, who is the most powerful bishop in the position is the light square bishop, because with black you haven't light square bishop to counter that. So this was a very strange mistake by Wesley so of not take on e4 here, 94, and then okay, try to still try trading pieces, and you are close to be equal. But okay, he played 97, and now bishop d2, very good move of Stremavicius, keeping bishops over the board, the most logical move. Queen d7, and now white have two ways to play, or still improving the pieces like Stremavicius did with queen b3, or d5, really breaking in the center, who is so interesting too. Knight c takes d5, and now g5. Knight h5, bishop here. Queen c8, very good move, attacking the bishop and attacking both bishops. Queen e4, knight f4, queen e4. Pawn takes knight d5, bishop d8, and okay, white is still having yes, initiative in this position. H4 and rook d4, very good move, and white is slightly better. And queen b3 by Stremavicius, more solid and just improving the position as was a fine move. And here, okay, black is still with his idea of blockade on d5. He could make it with the other knight too, but here bishop e5, rook ac8, and rook f1. But I prefer with the f9 because after knight c d5, bishop e5, now the bishop is attacking the f6 knight. Okay, it's not like he's going to take it, but the huge problem is that now g5 is coming just attacking this knight. So, and this knight is going to be hanging on d5. So that's why knight f5, I think that is more solid because this knight nobody can eject it from c7. But the f6 knight is going to be easy ejected with g5, bishop e5. And now comes one of I'm going to say the decisive mistake of Wesley so, but it's not the decisive because his opponent gave him opportunities of draw the game later. Um, but okay, um, bishop b5. And here black should defend the d5 knight with rook d8. Because after, okay, g5, knight h5, knight d5, c takes h4, but the d5 pawn at least was defended. The problem is that after rook f8, now the d5 is winning material. It's easy, yes, it's easy. Rook f8 winning material. Because here d5 attacking the knight, and if you go to h5, now knight takes and bishop takes, and white one is winning a pawn. So later the b7 pawn is hanging. So very strange move, this the rook f8 of Wesley so. He had the idea of playing knight c3, but this is completely losing. G takes f6, knight d1, f takes, knight f2. Here, Stremavicius decides to go for a position with a piece up, but he could just maintain the dark square bishop with rook f2 and queen f3 and play with the position of the two bishops against rook and two pawns. But the black king is also unsafe, so now queen f6 is coming, and the a5 bishop is a completely beast. But okay, it's understandable that the Stremavicius decides to just have a piece up. Okay, black have two pawns and white have an open king, but the position is completely winning. Okay, I'm going to pass this part of the game more or less fast because later in the endgame we had a very interesting things. Here, okay, the game is winning. No, sorry, here, sorry, I go so fast. Here, bishop b5 is a drawing move with white here. You cannot enter in the same game because black have enough tempos to draw the game and have enough counterplay to just to gain with the king and take the h3 pawn and yes and push these pawns. So here the best move was just keep queens over the board. Uh, I don't care. It's a queen move, for example, queen d8, and just try still keeping queens over the board, and one day try to take the a7 pawn, or yes, could be the idea, or advance these pawns one day and try to put the d1 king safe. Of course, the game is not easy to win here because okay, black have two pawns and for the piece, and the white king is open and it's not clear for white how to make progress. But the endgame is a draw. Oh, well played. So bishop b5, huge mistake of Stremavicius. Wesley saw trade queens and go for the h3 pawn. Bishop d7, g4. Now black have, yes, two. Yes, black is still having two pawns, but there are these two pass pawns, a more active king, and yeah, these pawns of white are just blocked by this pawn. So now the position is a draw well played. King e2, g3, bishop c6, king e5, king e3, and now Wesley saw make another huge mistake playing h3. The problem of h3 is that after bishop d7, h2, bishop c6, now the both black pawns are blockaded in the same diagonal. So you advance one, and the bishop only needs one diagonal to block the pawns. And yes, are just both pawns in the same diagonal and in the long diagonal. So the bishop you are not going to leave this diagonal never. And if you sacrifice the pawn, the bishop is still in the same diagonal. That's the huge problem. That here the pawns are not in the same diagonal. The one pawn is in the c8 h3 and the other is in the e2 h1. When I talk about the diagonal, I talk about the next square. For example, the h2 pawn. I'm not talking about the black diagonal. I'm talking about the light diagonal. But here, for example, in this position, the pawns, his next move are in two different diagonals. And if later one day, for example, if the bishop can be placed on g2, for example, imagine a stupid move like king d6. I'm not talking about this specific position. But if one day you play h3, after bishop takes, the bishop is leaving this diagonal, so maybe the king can make something in the other side of the board. But the problem is h3 is just completely losing. Black just can play king f5, for example, king f3, king e5, king g4, and now king with king d4 to take the queen side pawns and make the draw. Just give the kingside pawns. Now black king is going to take the queenside pawn, and the position is a draw. But h3 is a completely losing move by Wesley so. Bishop b7, h2, bishop c6, king d6. But okay, here white is completely winning, but we're going to see another mistake of Stremavicius. He's making well until here, but he made the incorrect move a4. The problem of a4 is not just fix the pawns or something, or put or trade pawns. No, no, this is no problem. The huge problem of a4 is that now the in the queen side, yes, the queen side black pawns have no moves. The So this is going to be crucial for the following, yes, for what happened later. So the a4 move is a blunder, it's a positional blunder. A4 before king e4, king g4, king e3, and here Wesley Shaw just resigned, and he thought that he is completely lost, and he resigned. Why he think that he is lost? Because okay, black is going to, for example, if you play king h4, now king f4 is coming, king h5, and king in g3. Both pawns are going to fall. Later bishop d3, defending the b pawn, and the king is going to come to take this one, for example. I'm going to show as a normal continuation of the game. The game could still like this, for example. And with the help of the bishop, with black you can never defend this position. And later take these two pawns and win the game. That's why Wesley saw resign in this position. What happened? That here black have an incredible stalemate idea, thanks to the bad move a4, fixing all the queenside pawns. Here, Wesley saw resign here and losing all his option of reach the candidate tournament, just being eliminated of the World Cup. Just he resigned of the tournament. But he had this incredible idea of king h4, king f4, of course, who is the move who start Wesley saw. But here he has this incredible move, h1, sacrifice, pawn sacrifice, bishop h1, and now king h3, king f3, king h2, bishop g2, and here incredible move, king g1. Wow! And if king takes, it's a stalemate. Black cannot move, and it's a draw. And this line is I'm not going to say that it's forced, but it's the only way for white to make progress. So yes, the position is just a draw. So I think that this happened to many players, and especially if you play many games. This happened to me once, like 2 years, no, 3 years ago. I resigned in a draw position, not in a draw position, in an equal position. In the machine says 0-0, and I resigned in that position. So okay, this could happen to everybody, especially, and there are not the only elite players who resign in a draw position, but okay, looks and apart, this is a yes, very very difficult trick, and okay, he just doesn't watch this teammate idea because okay, he doesn't lose because he resigned, he lost because he doesn't watch the teammate idea, because if he is still playing, he probably he plays king h5 or something, but so he just it's not that he evaluated worse, but the position, yes, of course, but it's not like a normal position. Is the position look like it's completely lost, but he have a still incredible stalemate idea who give him the draw. So yes, that's it. Sometimes yes, you doesn't was something or you evaluate incorrect and you resign in a draw position. It's so strange that this happened, but that this thing happened to me once, like 3 years ago. So okay, I hope that wesleyso came strong for the next candidates circle, and I think that he have level to be world champion. Well, wesleyso is a very good player. He's not the best of the world, but he's very good, and I hope that he came strong and he could be world champion one day. So let's see how. Oh, congratulations to Stremavicius to eliminate one elite player like wesleyso, and let's see how he continue in the tournament. Bye bye, motherfuckers.